What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in to Connected by Creatures. Zach and I have an amazing tonight. Man that needs no introduction, Mr. Earl Jones, Lone Star Reptiles. What's going on, Mr. Earl?
Uh, Not a whole lot. How y'all doing?
Ah, you know, like I said earlier, if I was any better, I couldn't live with myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Zach, I think you're muted.
Over to my Bluetooth. Apologize for that, guys.
There you go. Why you always got to screw this up, dude? We had this going. We start, and then you screw it up. What's the deal?
Well, Bradley goes, "Hey, we got 30 seconds." And I was like, "Oh shit, I haven't connected my Bluetooth. My damn internet might be all fucked up. I don't even know it yet. Like, we've been in here for 30 minutes so we can test this stuff, and here I was just fucking off. So,
Yeah,
just the usual.
we see how you are.
At least I'm consistent,
right?
Well, I kind of want to jump right into, Mr. Earl, everybody knows you for Lone Star Reptiles and what you're doing with the LSR fires and the ball pythons and this. I kind of want to get away from that and talk about the stuff that I wasn't really aware of and what you're doing as far as filming and working on, different types of movie sets and TV shows. Like, I think that there's a lot of people that don't realize that you're doing all that cool stuff and, maybe give some insight into that.
Well, I mean, I'm first off, I'm not on TV. I don't like to be on TV, so I'm behind the scenes on everything I do. But I work with strictly venomous snakes on TV. I've been in the film industry since I was 17 years old. I did work on Walker, Texas Ranger. I did 124 episodes of Walker. Then I did a spinoff of that. What was it called? I can't believe I just drew a blank on that. Yeah, I can't remember the name. I'll think of it in a second.
No big deal. Yeah.
But then I did hair commercials. Believe it or not, I actually had hair at one time for Garnier fruit juice. I had hair down to my waist. For those of y'all that don't know, and so I did a few hair commercials back when I was 18, 19 years old. But then I got away from the film industry for quite a few years, and then me and Tun started talking, and he got me back into it in a different atmosphere and behind the scenes, and I love what I do because I get to work with dangerous animals, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we work. I do several shows. We did a movie back in January. I took my wife on set, and that was the first time she's ever been able to be on set. And I was telling Bradley this the other day. I wanted her to see what really goes on because, I come home and I tell her stories about what we've done and, some of the stupid stuff that's asked of us. And so she's sitting there and right off the bat, the producer director she tells me, she goes, "Okay, we want to do this snake where it's coming across the grass, goes up this kid's leg, and then looks like it's choking him out." And being the smart ass I am, I told the lady, I said, "I'll go talk to the snake and tell her what we're doing." I mean, come on, man. But I get those questions all the time. Can you make this spider back down in a hole? Well,
Yeah.
I can get the spider in a hole, whether it's backing down it or going forwards. That's here to be seen. But
yeah.
And then they said, "Well, we want the spider to jump out of the hole at the camera." Well, that's not a problem. You pour water in the hole, and the spider's coming out at a high rate of speed. So, but it's funny because you never know what's going to be asked of you. I worked with a lot of people, that do the same thing I do. Ken Foose being one of the greats that we lost him this last year.
Yeah.
But Ken Foose has told me stories over and over and over about some of the stuff that he's done. I never had the privilege to work with him on set, but I did work with him quite a bit offset. And that's one of the greatest guys I know in this industry, or knew. And I looked up to him and Tom Crutchfield, and but the film side is pretty exciting. Lots of travel. I get to travel all over the U.S., out of country. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. So if you would give me a little background as far as like, just some details. I mean, the specifics of what, what you're involved in with the film. Because again, people hear that you're involved in movies and stuff like that. They don't really know what you exactly do. So obviously you, I'm assuming, are kind of the animal handler from what it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. I mean, I can't do specifics,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure.
but yeah, I mean, most people when I'm on set, they think I'm just the angry guy in the corner because I show up in shorts and cowboy hat and my
Yeah.
creeper sandals on, or and nobody knows who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I get to listen. I got my earwigs in, and I'm listening to the contestants or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I'm listening to everything they say, and when they say they're afraid of spiders, well, guess what? You're fixing to be living with a lot of spiders for the next 6 months.
Got you. I got you.
I'll make it safe, but I'm going to terrify the hell out of you.
For sure.
And it's kind of a double-edged sword for me because my ultimate goal is to try to get people into this,
Right.
and then when we're doing this kind of stuff, we're scaring the hell out of people.
Sure.
But there's some shows that's educational. We do, we'll go out and we'll actually catch the animals in the wild and use those. I don't do a lot of, like my animals are never going on set with me.
Yeah,
my
right.
pets.
Yeah.
But if we can't find the animals, then I'll have to rent animals from somebody in that area that are indigenous to that area. But there is some snakes I won't work with. I won't work with mambas. I won't work with gaboon vipers. I wouldn't mind having a gaboon in my personal collection, but I will not work with them on set. I mean, they're too unpredictable, and there's no real safe way to work with them, around other people.
No. Yeah.
We actually work with
sure.
snakes around people, and so you have to learn how to manage that snake to where it's not going to bite somebody, and the safest way possible. And sometimes it's tough.
I'm sure, because like you said, you can't, it's a wild animal, whatever a director is asking you to do, you can do the best of your ability with your knowledge of that animal. And that's the only reason that you can do it, because the nature of the animals and you've been around them for as long as you have and, studied them and watched them and observed. But at the same time, there's some species where it's just not worth the risk,
Well, I quit dealing with cobras. I mean, there's not too many people who know this story, but my wife had one cobra. She bought her cobras from Tom Crutchfield, but she had one that was a citrus albino monocled cobra, and dude, this thing was bipolar.
Yeah.
You could reach in there and grab it by hand one day, and I don't freehand, but you could.
You could, right?
You couldn't put a hook on her, and so I went to clean her cage one day, and I had 2 hooks on her, and as I'm bringing her out, she spun around the hooks and headbutted me right in my junk. And dude, I'm gonna tell you what, that was a scary moment.
Yeah,
it was so fast, and I never even saw it coming. And I mean, I literally picked her up by hand and put her back in her cage, but it was bad. And I walked outside and told my wife, I said, dude, she's got to go. I'm done.
Yeah, something's unpredictable.
I actually quit messing with cobras altogether after that. I mean, we got rid of them all, but I love cobras. I think they're super cool. They have their place. I don't think everybody needs one, but and after that day, I just decided that I didn't want to work with them anymore. I love rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes are my favorite. I'm trying to collect every single rattlesnake in the world, get them all in the facility. We want to open up what we call the Rattlesnake Museum. And dude, how cool would it be to walk in one building and have 200 rattlesnakes in there with all different morphs? And, I mean, come on.
That was actually going to be my next question to you. Or next thing I was going to, have you talk about your rattlesnake facility that you had talked, you and I had talked about off camera. With that in mind, how many species of rattlesnake do you have right now?
I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right now. 8 different species. Now there's different morphs and that and stuff. I don't like. I mean, I like collecting the normal animals, but like this caramel albino prairie rattlesnake, dude, that thing is just gorgeous. And I had a purple albino eastern that didn't survive. I paid an arm and a leg for it.
I've seen a picture of that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're beautiful.
There were 7 of them, and they all died. It wasn't just mine. They all. And albinism, for some reason, in certain species, doesn't do well. Like this caramel albino, it was assist fed for 1.5 years. So, until it took food on its own, and he eats fine now, but I can hardly wait to get a female. I'm just going to put a normal prairie to it and make some heads and try to reproduce them. We don't do a lot of breeding on the venomous, but there's certain ones I just can't help it. I got to, they're so cool. We're headed out to Arizona next week, and hopefully we get some good footage of, some rattlesnakes and stuff out in the wild there, in their natural habitat. Then I can come home and I can build habitats the way, they need to be. And that's what we're going to start traveling and doing that. And there's going to be some species that I just can't get a hold of right away. But once the states and the governments in these states see what we're doing, it'll make it a little easier to get a hold of some of them.
Sure.
Like that, you got right there where you're at. I want that Carolina red so bad I can taste it.
Yeah.
And dude, those things are incredible. But they're highly protected. But once I get to a certain point, then I can go in and say, look, this is what we're doing. And I'm going to be very, it'll be a lot easier to get one.
Yeah. And that's what I love about you, Earl, is that, you just from talking to you personally, you are real big on, being able to build that bridge, in terms of, making sure that you're doing things legally and establishing that relationship with kind of that local government, at a start. And I think that's something that's not touched on nearly enough. So many people in this hobby shy away from trying to build a relationship, even with like local animal control and things like that. And Bradley, you've had your own experiences with this. You can touch on. We've talked about it before, where just having your name out there amongst those people and establishing yourself as a responsible keeper in their eyes can make all of the difference in the world.
It's funny that you say that, Zach, because in Mr. Earl and I's conversation yesterday, this came up, and it was something that Earl wanted to talk about. He told me yesterday, he was like, we need to talk about this live.
Yes.
And so basically I had told him, my story about somebody calling animal control on me and having people, come and check my animals, and then them commending me on how well I keep my animals.
Yeah.
And Mr. Earl, if you want to go into, what you and I were talking about yesterday, I think it's very important that people hear, what you had going.
Well, so when I first started, I've been doing the venomous for 35 years. And so when my wife and I got together, she told me that no venomous whatsoever. And I was like, yeah, I'm good with that. And I knew that wasn't ever going to last, but and she actually brought the first cobra in. So, she screwed that up. But when I first started, now I'm in the city limits. And so every city has an ordinance, and people need to look at their ordinances before they start doing something and then go talk to the city. So I just happened to be friends with the city manager beforehand, and so I told him, I said, look, dude, this is what I want to do. I'm bringing alligators in. I'm bringing crocodiles in. I'm bringing the coatimundis. I'm bringing, a sloth. I'm doing all that. And he said, bring anything you want in. And then if we ever have a problem, we'll set the ordinance, accordingly, and you'll be grandfathered in. And so let's fast forward about 3 years. I did a magazine article, and I kind of knew going into this magazine that it was going to be a mistake.
Yeah.
But, publicity, any publicity is good publicity, good or bad. It's still good publicity in a sense, And so I talked to my wife about this magazine deal, and she's like, yeah, let's do it. So the magazine hits. It's a Texas publicated magazine. It's not nationwide. It hits, and 2 weeks later, the city manager called me and says, hey, we got a problem. And I said, what's the problem? And he goes, well, somebody's, boycotting against you. They want to get you shut down. They're bringing it in front of the council. And I said, okay, not a problem. So we go, me, the city manager, the city attorney, and the mayor, we sit down, we have a little powwow, and I wrote the city ordinance now. I rewrote it. Well, the original city ordinance said you could have 5 animals, period. It didn't matter if it was 2 dogs, 3 cats. You couldn't have anything else, And so now you can have as many reptiles as you like, but you have to have a permit to have them,
Okay.
And they have to come out and look at your facility, make sure everything's good. So when we went in the city council meeting, she didn't realize I wrote the ordinance. So when I walked in the door, I walked up and I shook the mayor's hand, I shook the city attorney's hand, and I did a chest bump on the city manager. Well, right then she did.
Yeah.
But you also got to understand, for 2.5 years, I put 9,000 hours into their museum for free. I had retired. I needed something to do, so I built their museum. So they're not going to tell me no.
Yeah.
And so what I'm getting at is get to know your city officials. I forget who it was out in California. He called me and he was having a hard time, and they were making him get rid of all his animals. If you go to the city council and you say, hey, this is what I'm doing, bring facts with you, and then call me. I'll get you a copy of our ordinance. I'll get you a copy of ordinances all over the place. So I basically copied another ordinance, and I did exclude venomous and crocodilians, so nobody else can bring venomous or crocodilians inside the city limits. I'm grandfathered in, so it doesn't affect me. But at the same time, I don't want to, like all the big snakes. We didn't discuss that. I wasn't even going to make that an issue.
Yeah, yeah. You got to know that line.
Yeah, it's a fine line with that. If there's any kind of question about it, now the ordinance is set, so they can't do anything with it. So we left that alone.
Yeah.
And it was funny because she's on the city council now.
Right.
She tried to bring it up again, and it's untouchable now. It's set in stone. But so when they said I had to have a permit, let's see if I can show you this. There's my permit hanging on the wall.
Love it.
I think I'm the only one in the United States with a permit for ball pythons. And it started out, it was like $55 a year. Well, now it's free because I'm the only one with it now. That one was actually number 2. And the lady that stirred all this up, she got the number 1, and that made me mad. I did this. I should have had number 1 regardless. But so
you're number 1 in my book, Earl.
Well, they have to come out and they have to look at everything and inspect it and make sure everything's good to go. So at that time, there was 2 young girls working at the animal shelter, and that's who was going to do it. So I was good to go. They come out here and they hung out and played and everything. Well, they got fired 6 months later. I don't know what happened, but they got fired. Well, they brought a new lady in that's been doing animal control for 27 years. And so when I went to renew my permit the very first year, they said, well, you have to go to animal control. Well, I walked in there. I had no clue who this lady was. And I told her what was going on. She goes, well, I don't know nothing about this. I'll have to find out. And I said, well, it's due for renewal tomorrow, so you need to come out today. And so she called over to City Hall, and they said, yeah, you have to go out there and inspect this place. Well, she walks in my door, and I didn't know what to expect. Because if this lady says, I don't like this, I'm shut down. And she walks in the door, she goes, this is badass. And I knew I was set. Dude, they haven't been back to my facility since. I just go to the animal control. They fill out my paperwork, and I go about my way. She actually took the fees away, too. She told them, she goes, there's no reason for this. And, and there's other people here doing animals, and they're doing it illegally, and I don't care. If they get caught, it's going to be them. I've got people that I know there's crocodilians in this area, and because I had a guy call me and tell me he had crocodilians, and I said, dude, that's illegal in the city limits. He goes, no. He said, I already called the state, and I said, the state law does not, oversee city laws.
Yeah,
I said,
which is another thing a lot of people aren't aware of.
Yeah, the city laws supersede the state laws.
It's just it. I hear people, well, in our state we can do, but you have to look at counties and cities. There's certain counties, like Burleson, Texas, is like 9 miles from me. It's a no constrictor rule. You can't have horn snakes. You can't have ball pythons. I mean, nothing. They're there, but like Petco can't sell them. I was in Petco to get crickets one night, and I was like, "Where's all your snakes at?" She goes, "Well, all we can have is like garter snakes and stuff like that because there's a no constrictor rule." And so COVID hit right after I found this out, so I haven't been able to go to city council there and try to fight for them, but I'm going to, because there's no reason. I mean, okay, let's exclude the retics and berms and the bigger, the big five. Okay, I get that. Even though that should be wrong too, I get it because they're big constrictors. But these little constrictors, they're not going to hurt nothing. There's no reason for it. Now, do I really want to help Petco? Not really. But at the same time, I want to make it legal for people like y'all to have whatever you want.
Right.
So
that line.
I've been advocating quite a bit in Texas in general. I work with Parks and Wildlife on, the regulations on animals. The regulations here are really minute.
Yeah.
There needs to be certain regulations on certain animals, a little better, and then lighten up on others. And so I'm working on that. I have permits for alligators. Man, it took forever to get that. 9 years before my paperwork was even considered.
Wow.
I got refusals every 6 months for 9 years. And so it took 11 years to actually get the permits. And
wow.
I understand they're a protected species, but at the same time, they're everywhere. They're a nuisance. And now I'm working on nuisance alligator permits. So I can collect those. But I just want everybody to have the same rights, nationwide, really. And like I just heard Indiana has a 5 foot rule, so anything over 5 feet you can't have.
Yeah.
And that's state, that's not cities,
Yeah, that's a blanket law.
Yeah.
It's a blanket rule. Yeah.
And I got news for you. There's berms and retics everywhere up there,
Yeah.
But if you get caught, it can mean jail time. Not just a fine, but it can mean jail time. And I think we all, USARK fights for us. Don't get me wrong.
Every day. Yeah.
They're fighting the legal fights. We need to go into the cities and fight the smaller fights.
Yeah.
Well, go in there with an attitude. You got to go in there with facts.
A cool, calm head.
Yes.
Well, and so we've Bradley and I have had this conversation a number of times. Actually, on Cusco's Patreon with individuals. There's a person, Marshall, from Martial Law Morphs. He got a local law changed in his area. To where literally all snakes were banned where he lived. And the thing is I think the main takeaway for anybody that's listening to this is that rather than just choosing to be an outlaw, right, and just, I'm going to do what I want, and I'm just going to be secretive about it, which I understand. I'm not discrediting anybody, because if anybody is like, hey, I don't think the government should be allowed to tell me what I can and can't do, I'm that person. But at the same time, we all have to understand that we need to operate within the law as much as possible, because if you are operating illegally and then you do get caught, and then let's just say that your local news is bored that day and they've got nothing better to do, well, then all of a sudden now you've got a news article running about somebody keeping these illegal constrictive pythons. It sounds really fucking bad. And so then that news headline, because let's all be honest again, headlines are all that matters. Nobody reads the full article. Nobody's going to read it and be like, oh, well, this guy had like 2 ball pythons and got caught and got in trouble. No, it's going to read like, man gets arrested for giant constrictors in his house, because that's the shit that sells a newspaper.
Right. And people, when people who aren't into reptiles like we are, people who don't
Yeah,
know it, they hear
freak
that
out.
word constrictor and their fucking
Yeah.
head blows
It's a
out the
trigger word.
top. Yeah, it
That's
is.
what news
You
is all
know,
about. It's all about trigger words.
and it happens all the time. And to to Earl's credit, what he's saying is, man, you know, if you go in hot headed and stomping your feet, and you're not going to be listened to as well. As there's avenues now. There's literature that you can get from USARC's website. There's people that you can reach out to get literature,
Yes.
and have an educated argument.
Hey,
And that's the only way that it's going to happen.
If you ever need a copy of my ordinance, all you got to do is call. I will get you all the information so you can walk in and say, look, this is kind of standard across the board. It's, pretty simple, but it's pretty much standard. I mean, all over Texas, there's certain cities that are not, and that's why I'm trying to change a couple more. But, I have had conversations with people about regulation, and a lot of people take it the wrong way. A lot of these animals need to be regulated more, so that
if go ahead, Earl, I'm sorry.
Listen to what I'm saying first, okay?
Yeah, sorry. Yep.
Regulation needs to be in play for one reason. If we don't start regulating, and if we go in and try to help set these regulations, then the government can't come in and take our stuff away. If we self-regulate, and get with the states and say, hey, let's put this in play. This is going to be standard operating procedure from here on out. Then the government can't come in, the Biden administration come in and take our stuff away. Because that's what they want. They don't want us having anything. I mean, they don't even want us having dogs and cats. But if we don't pay attention to what we're doing, we're going to be right there someday. Yeah. And so self-regulation is one of the biggest things with me. And I'm working like with my city, we've regulated what can come in here and what can't. Yeah. And they're gonna abide by that. The police will check on it. Now, well, if you come to me and say, I got 35 rattlesnakes in my house, I'm not going to go to the police and tell them, hey, this guy's doing it. That's up to you. Right. You get caught, I don't want to hear about it when they end up in my collection, because that's exactly where they're coming. Yeah. Because they don't want them, they're going to call me to go get them anyway. Yeah. But,
well, and I think the kind of if I can maybe try to give a simple version of how to explain it, and if I'm wrong in this, please tell me. To me, it's all about collaboration over trying to fight them. Right? Let's collaborate with the lawmakers at the end of the day, because the reality is that these laws are going to come. I don't care where you live, like, for example, South Carolina is a good example. South Carolina, their laws are very wide open. I mean, like, I live in North Carolina, so South Carolina is our neighbor. I've debated on moving to South Carolina for a long time because they're very much more free about a lot of stuff. And I love, again, I like freedom, man. I like to be able to make my own decisions to do whatever the hell I want. But even South Carolina is, all of a sudden, they're cracking down on all these venomous things. Now, let's be honest, because there's a ton of damn venomous keepers in South Carolina. There's a ton of them. And guess what? They never did. They never reached out to try to collaborate with their local government and say, hey, I want to let y'all know I have these animals and there's no laws against me keeping these animals. But here's what I want to do. I want to talk to y'all about the proper way to keep them. I want to show y'all how I'm keeping them. I want to
set a precedent.
Yes, I want to set a precedent for how I'm keeping them, to show you guys that, hey, just in case you all are approached by some legislator, by some lobbyist that's a paid person, somebody that's paid to come in and sell y'all on this legislation, I want to show y'all what I'm doing, and then maybe let's go ahead and set a standard. Maybe I can be willing to allow a law to be passed by my standards, by the right way to do things, as opposed to me being real hush-hush and secretive because, well, the law doesn't apply to me. Everything's cool. Like, there's currently no laws. Well, just because there's not doesn't mean tomorrow can't be a ban overnight. Like Tegus in Florida, or again, venomous in South Carolina. All of a sudden, something you ignored for years, and you felt like you needed to avoid having interaction with the government. You should have built that bridge. You should have built that relationship, and then maybe you'd have been a little bit safer. You'd have had a leg to stand on at least.
Well, that's like
you'd have been able to fight.
In Nevada, it's illegal to have any venomous snakes unless they're indigenous and in an albino form. Well, you're not going to go out and catch an indigenous species in an albino form. you know.
Right.
And so, like when we're filming in Nevada, I have to get with Nevada, Nevada Parks and Wildlife. I send in my permit applications 30 days in advance with my Texas permits.
Right.
And then they will issue me a permit. They have 30 days to issue that. But if I'm out collecting and I get caught without that permit, it's a big fine, dude.
Yeah.
And that's just it. I mean, even if you have to go to your city and do your city ordinances, tell them, look, in order to keep what animals I have, I'm willing to pay for a permit once a year. Show them that you're willing to give a little bit, and they'll give a little bit. This guy in California, I can't remember what his name is. Ed, E2D is what they called him. Ed with 2D. I don't know. I can't think what his handle is, but he was in California and he was having a lot of issues, and he called me and he said that, I'm going to go to him and I'm going to sue the city. Dude, you can't do that. First off, you'll never beat the city. They have 10 times the lawyers you've got, and I've got a good attorney, dude. But my attorney's already told me we're not fighting the city.
Yeah, they got nothing but time.
No. And so I have nothing but time too,
Right.
I say that, I'm 50 years old. I don't have that much time left, but still I have the time to sit back and make this legislation happen to where I don't have to worry about things. So in the area I'm living in, I'm pretty much safe. Even if they come in and ban, all this stuff, I'm still grandfathered in at this point.
Right.
But I've made it to where they're not going to try to do that because we have a decent, proposal. And Shane Kelly's calling me.
Of course he is.
Answer it. Put him on speakerphone.
He
Tell
did
him
that
he's
shit on
unconnected
purpose.
by creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have answered that.
It's all good.
No, it's one of them deals where you cannot be hot-headed going in, and I'm a hothead. I ain't gonna lie, but I just know what I have to do, and I have a lot of respect for the people in this city. I walk in the city hall with snakes wrapped around my neck, just to pay my water bill. I know there's a few people there that don't like them, and I do it, for that reason. But every one of those people have touched one. I walked in the library with one. I walk in the grocery store with one hanging around my neck. It looked like a tie. Dude, I was in the grocery store for 30 minutes. Nobody even knew. And I get up to the register, and he raised up. But my barbecue place, he's like, hey, you need to come in here with a snake. I said, all right, so I walked in there with about an 8-footer one day. And, he freaked out. He was expecting a little snake, I guess. You told me to, but
yeah.
But that's every animal I have. I've walked in the grocery store with Roscoe on a leash.
Oh, wow.
I have fun in this town, and it didn't always used to be that way,
Yeah.
Well,
and I think, Earl, you are kind of the best case scenario, right? For as a reptile keeper. And I mean that as a genuine compliment to you, and hell, you've even taught me things about how to interact with people with snakes, right? Because you at the Arlington show, I was walking around with that big retic, right? I had so much fun with that. But you were kind of giving me pointers like, hey, do this because then it'll kind of like set people at ease a little bit more. And you had all these little things that you told me that you do to just make people relax around the animals. Because there were, I interacted with a number of people that were nervous, about with that, probably about a 9-foot retic,
Yeah, that one area you had all them kids and nobody wanted to touch it. And I looked at that snake, I held its head, and I was like, hell with it. I stuck his head in my mouth. Yeah. But that showed them kids that snake wouldn't hurt them, and it all grabbed at them.
I was gonna say their body language. I like to think I'm pretty good at reading body language. All their shoulders just dropped, and their facial expressions went from like kind of nervous to just smiling and kind of laughing, and then it's amazing the transformations you can have. So the point that I guess I'm trying to make is that not just anybody can just walk around their town with a snake around their neck and have a positive effect, right? But you're capable of doing that because, and many of us are, because you can then communicate with people. Because, you know, for example, like I was at a pet store one time, a local pet store, and we had taken one of our ball pythons in there because we knew some of the employees and they wanted to meet a couple of our snakes. And there was a guy that was literally just there to like buy dog food. And he's like, you better keep that fucking snake away from me or it'll end up dead. And it's like, there's some people in this hobby that would have reacted very negatively to that. But in that moment, I knew that I am one person that this man may have ever interacted with in his life, maybe that is this passionate about these animals. And so I have an opportunity to do one of two things. I can react very angrily, which I wanted to, right? Because it did make me angry what he said. It's like, what are you? You're threatening to kill one of my pets, but I didn't. I smiled at him, and I said, well, you know, like I'm sorry that you feel that way. I said, because you know, I assure you that this animal that I'm holding has no ill will towards you, and you know, if you want to, you know, well, just whatever. Anyways, I tried my damnedest to turn into a positive interaction, and I guess, like I said, that's the point, is that just, you know, you do a really damn good job, I think, of just communicating with people and really understanding how to flip people's brains around a little bit through a lot of examples and maybe some things that seem a little off the wall, like putting a retic's head in your mouth or kissing a retic on the face. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was saying. To be clear, Earl put a retic's head in his mouth and gave a retic a kiss on the face. And this was a retic he'd never met before. I mean, literally.
It actually belonged to In Your Face Exotic.
Yes.
Somewhere.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I love it. Where that
came from.
Yeah. But it was an amazing thing. Yeah.
But I held that head up, and I knew just by holding that head that snake wasn't going to bite me. I have been bit on the tongue before doing that. You know, I don't lie. And you know, I've got a berm that I open my mouth and she automatically goes in my mouth. And I've trained her to do that, but for this exact reason. And that's what I told you. You know, I've got them at home that do that. You know, I got a story at PetSmart. So I took Roscoe in PetSmart when he was a baby. I mean, he's probably 4 or 5 weeks old, and worst experience.
For those of you that don't know what Roscoe is, Roscoe's a Coatimundi, guys.
Yeah, and you know, it was like the worst experience ever because we didn't realize it was Adopt a Dog Day. And
oh no.
So I've got him on my shoulder. You know, he's on a leash, but he's on my shoulder, and we're walking through there, and we round the corner, and this pit bull barks. And Roscoe did about 5 loops around my head.
Yeah.
I had blood coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
If you've never seen a Coatimundi's claws, they're like an inch long, and they're sharp.
And when they get panicked, they dig in, I'm sure.
So the lady, you know, in the pet section, she goes, "Aren't you the reptile breeder?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Will you bring a snake up here one day?" And you can, you know.
Yeah, I might have one.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to interact with all the areas. I mean, get out there in your communities and don't hide what you're doing. Let people know what you're doing. Anybody in my neighborhood will tell you who I am. You know, that was part of the deal with doing this ordinance. Is I had to go to my neighbors and let them know what I do. At one time, you know, I had to have venomous plaques on outside my house saying there was venomous animals inside.
Sure.
Well, when all this ordinance took place, they asked me to take the plaques down. And
interesting.
You know, so nobody would, you know, they, as far as EMTs and fire and all, they know who I am. They know what's in here. But they didn't want the neighborhoods to see what was in here. So they asked me to take all the placards down.
Yeah.
Now inside the house, I mean, you can see behind me, every cage has placards on it. You know, this is my office, and this is where, you know, we keep most of the venomous stuff. I just prefer it that way because I love to walk in my office. I can watch the cameras and listen to everybody buzz. You know, and it's pretty cool. But no,
I love that, man.
Communities and don't hide what you're doing. I mean, what we're doing is not taboo. It's not, you know, it's not the devil, dude. And you get that look. You know, when I meet somebody new and I tell them for the first time I breed snakes, they're like, "Holy crap!" You know. And then you mention we're all tattooed up, and you know, I mean, that doesn't help matters either. But
But it is a thing. I mean,
we're not
let's be
demons.
honest. Yeah. But that's I think that's kind of where I was going with that, Earl, is in all seriousness, you know, and I don't mean this as a slight to anybody. I think that people have to be aware of their personalities, right? Because again, going back to it, I know 100 more people that if they were me standing in that pet store and somebody said something like that to them about how, oh, if you get close to me with that snake, it's going to be dead, they would have reacted in a very, very negative way. You know, they would have screamed and shouted and cussed and made it. And the thing is that, like I said, in that moment, that's what I wanted to do. But instead, I bit my tongue and I realized that if I do that, if I react in a negative way towards this person, okay, he's going to walk away he already hates the snake anyways, right?
Yep.
So if I react in a negative way, well, now all I've done is confirm everything that he already thinks about me. He already doesn't like me because he's like, oh, this guy's crazy for keeping these animals. So instead, if I smile and I'm just nice to him and I just say, hey man, you know what? I get it. I understand. You know, you just haven't had the experiences that I have with these animals and you just don't know any better. And that's okay. You know, that kind of thing. And you just try to make it into something whether you crack a joke or whatever. Not everybody has that personality. And so I think what I would say is just, if you can't handle some negativity, you know, and if you think that you're the type of person that if somebody insults your snake, for example, because there's people like I've seen that they'll take their snakes to the park or whatever, and I love that. I'm a big advocate. Everybody will tell you of getting your snakes outside if you can, but at the same time, if you're not a person that can react to negativity in a proper way, I think everybody needs to understand we are all advocates for this hobby. You as an individual, it might be one interaction because you never know who's going to see you with that snake. You never know who you're going to run into with a snake around your neck, and you got to stay positive. Yeah,
touch on it just a minute because
please.
If you're going out to the parks, get with your parks department and let them know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That way, you know, they're not getting phone calls and you know, but let them know what you do, you know, that you do breed these animals, and every once in a while you'd like to get them out, you know, and you'll try to stay in your zone, you know, when you're out there, but you're going to have interaction with people, and always have business cards with you. Hand them out.
Yes. Yep.
You know, tell them you will be glad to show them animals, and like your instance in that store when that guy did that, I would have handed him my business card and said, hey man, why don't you come out to the house and I'll show you, you know, some animals. I'd like to try to change your mind on, you know, on the way you look at these things.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be surprised at how many times they'll actually show up.
Yeah, we keep stickers with us at all times. Anytime we have animals, you know, when we're out and about, or like if, you know, doing a birthday party or whatever, and we have stickers with us, and you know, when somebody says something, you know, we'll hand them a sticker and be like, hey, you know, we would love for you to, you know, if you're interested in this, you want to know more about the animals, you want to know whatever. But I think you're right, Earl, about letting the people around you know and not hiding stuff. And the reason I say that is, you know, we just moved back to Arkansas in October because I've been working off, and then we got here and all that shit happened with animal control. And I went to the neighbor, like I live in a cul-de-sac, and I went to every neighbor in the cul-de-sac, and I was like, hey, you know, I don't know if you guys had the wrong idea. They wouldn't tell me who called, blah, 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 blah. But I have this, this, and this. You're more than welcome to come check it out. You're more than welcome. And like, none of my neighbors even knew what the hell I had. They, you know, they didn't care. But it just reaching out to them, and they were like, oh, well, whatever you do in your house is your business. Like, we're not worried about it. And then one of them had kids, and I was like, you know, if the kids are interested. And the next thing I know, that the kids are in the front. I told Zach about this when I got home. The kids were in the front yard playing basketball, and I'm bringing snake after snake after snake outside so the kids can see it. Everybody in the cul-de-sac loved it, you know? And it's, to Zach's point and to yours, it's that communication skills. If you can work on the way that you communicate with people and keep that level head, you know, if you go out and somebody says, well, the only good snake's a dead snake, and you flip out and you're like, well, fuck you, blah, 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 you're an idiot. All that's going to do is keep pushing that negativity.
Yep.
But
you have just cemented that in their brain even further.
If you communicate positively and, well, maybe this animal isn't so bad. Maybe, and
just giving back to your community. Start with your community. You know, do what you can to educate. Go down to the library and tell them, hey, I'd like to come in here and do a program. Say let's do this on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or whatever day we can do this, and invite as many kids as you can get in the library. We'll set it up a month from now so you have time to plan and get the community involved. I do a lot of the churches around here, and I charge for every show I do except the churches. I don't charge them, and it is what it is now. Because of COVID, we've had to stop doing a lot of things, and I get that. But just reaching out to your community, even if it's like animal control, you can get with a local animal control and you can take a couple animals up there and have people, they'll have people come in. They don't mind doing it. If there's a snake call, I guarantee you I'm getting the phone call. I got one sitting right up here on the top. I don't know if you can see that. One of them gray boxes up there has got a king snake in it, a speckled king that, I caught it just the other day on the way to work. The guy called me. I got a rattlesnake in my front yard. Can you come get it? I said, how do you know it's a rattlesnake? Because it's rattling. I said, okay. So he sends me a picture of it, and I was like, well, it's not a rattlesnake, but I'll come get it. And I get over there. I don't know where the snake's at because it looked like it was between a rock and a wall. And so I took a hook and a pair of tongs with me in case I needed tools. And so when I get there, it's behind a bucket just laying there. And I reach down and grab it with my hand and just pick it up. And the guy's like, it's going to bite you. I said, he's not going to bite you. I said, he will musk you. And about that time, he sprayed that guy right in the chest.
I'd rather get bit.
I guarantee it, dude. All day long.
Yep.
100 times. Don't musk me.
Yeah. You can't get rid of that fruit. Yeah.
People worry about the pointy end. I'm worried about the smelly end. I'll take the pointy end all day.
All day.
I was in an LSR t-shirt because if I'd been wearing my work shirt, I'd had to come home and change.
Oh,
and
for sure.
I came home and washed my arm 3 times and then washed another 5 times when I got to work, and I could still smell it.
Yeah. Those pheromones, man, they sink in at like a cellular level. There's something about it. It won't go away for a day or two.
But the biggest point to this is if you get out with your community, you get with your city officials, you're not going to have any issues. And when an issue does arise, like what happened to me, they'll come to you and say, hey, we need help with this.
Yeah, be the example.
Expert in your field, let's use you to help, redo this.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I started to say it earlier, my buddy has his saying, and it's a saying in business, but it's a saying, honestly, for life. He says collaboration over competition. You can either compete and fight against your local government, or you can collaborate with them. And I promise you're going to get a lot more done by collaborating, and just, again, being open and honest and just setting the example. It's not hard. And also, again, to preface, it's not for everybody. Not everybody should be out there trying to talk to certain people. And this is a tough thing to communicate, right? Because I think you got to be very self-aware. I think people have to be very self-aware, and you have to be very aware of, like, if you're a person that's going to fly off the handle every time that somebody is going to tell you something negative or whatever. And I feel like this message is probably not going to reach those people anyways, but I just want to clarify, like, if you're going to go and out of your way, for example, if you're considering right now in your mind, you know what, I might actually reach out to my local legislature or whatever, I would encourage you, maybe start with local animal control first of all. And then I would also encourage you to assess who you are as a person. Do you not to be insulting, but do you consider yourself, like, if somebody was to walk into your snake room right now, are you beyond reproach? Kevin from Nerd, not to necessarily use him as a gold standard, but just as an example of something that he said, in terms of when I go into these lawyers meetings and these where legislature is actually being written, and I show up as a person that's going to talk, a person of interest or whatever, his local stuff, we need to be beyond reproach as much as humanly possible. In other words, if somebody walked into your snake room any given day of the week, is there anything that is going to maybe make them question whether or not they should tell you it's cool for you to keep that stuff? If there is, then I would actually encourage you to keep your mouth shut, because I only want the best of the best. I only want the people that are really doing things the right way to feel confident enough to be that example, because again, you are the example. You are setting the standard. So if you're going to go out of your way to do all that stuff, make sure your stuff's on point. Make sure that there's nothing that's questionable, and maybe, just be aware. And I don't mean to make a negative thing out of a positive thing, because again, this whole thing is really just about being positive and just making sure that we're setting ourselves up for the future of this industry. It's all on our shoulders, 100%.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because otherwise they have nothing else to go on. We got to show them how well we do things. And then, okay, cool. The standard has been set and we've got that relationship. So like you said, Earl, when something comes up in a meeting that we may or may not hear about, they can call the quote unquote expert, because maybe you can be the go-to guy in your local area and they can ask you your opinion on something. So it's important.
Well, Mr. Earl, before we started this, you had told us that you had a rant that you needed to get off your chest, and I want to give you all the platform in the world to do that.
Let's do it.
This is not coming from me necessarily. This was somebody called me the other day, and they did a pairing, and a guy reached out to him on his video and slamming him for doing this pairing. And I'm not going to mention what the pairings were or who the people are, but the bullying in this industry needs to stop. It really does. This is worse than little school kids.
Mm-hmm.
And, early on, I had it done to me a time or two. I blew it off. I just kept pushing forward until I gained the respect, and respect is earned. It's not given.
100%.
But this guy is really trying hard to grow his collection, and he bred something for himself. And that's exactly what I told him. I said, is this something that you wanted to do? And he goes, yeah. I said, and why are you worried about it? Don't let this guy get to you. But there is a lot of bullying out there on these newer people. And the simple fact is, these newer people, there's a lot of different things. Your animals they all brown out in time, and people get discouraged and they quit. This is what they quit over more than anything, is people harassing them, bullying them, and they can't deal with it. All right.
Yeah.
And you have to have tough skin. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, why do these people have to do this? I mean, you breed your thing, I breed my thing. I mean, I don't tell you what to breed.
Yeah. We're all on the same team.
And I don't care what you think about what I'm breeding, because I'm after certain things for myself. I don't breed for you. I breed for myself, and what I don't want, I sell. And that's what I explained to him. I said, if that's something that you wanted to do, and it was like a high-end codom with a recessive trait, and it was a het, and he was breeding it to like a 5-gene, non-het. Well, he's not worried about the pos hets at this point,
right? Right.
And,
but he allowed that person to get in his head and then start questioning whether he should be worried about the pos head aspect. Yeah.
Well, and like, I've been asked several times why I breed het to het. I don't care, because have you seen what I make breeding het to hets? Yeah, I might not make all visuals. And I got all these pos hets, but guess what? I have an avenue to get rid of them.
That's exactly. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's exactly what I was going to go with that after the fact. Is that, listen, you can't approach it if you're approaching somebody that's new in the hobby from a standpoint of, hey, listen, like, I've been doing this for a long time. Can we talk about what you're doing and what you have going on? And if you approach it, again, going back to it, it's all how you communicate.
Well, if you ask me what directions you should go, I'm going to tell you where I would go with something.
Right.
And if I think you're screwing up, like what he's doing, I started with pos hets, dude, to make clowns, because I couldn't afford clowns early on. So I started with a pair of pos hets, same thing with pies. my pieds never proved out. I finally spent the money on a visual pied and made my own heads. So,
Right.
clowns, I actually proved one out, and it worked. But and now I think, I don't know, I've got 24 visual clowns breeding right now. I got 59 clown females in the rack growing. I just set my males up, and there's 25 visual clowns, and not a single one of them are the same. So
yeah.
And that all started from pos het to pos het.
Yep.
So, what this guy is doing, I mean, I did the same thing with the sunset. I bought a pair of het sunsets, get them about halfway grown up, find out I got a pair of males, not a pair.
Right.
And so I just started breeding those hets to everything, making pos hets.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't keep the sunset project. I got discouraged with it and sold it all off because I just didn't like what it was making. But I was still going to breed all them pos hets and take that gamble of getting that stuff back,
Yeah.
And again, it's my animal, so I can do what I want. And that's what I try to explain to him. But I get this, all the time. People call me, why are people so mean? Why, guys, we need to work together.
Yeah.
We're everybody talks about the community being like family. Show it.
Mm-hmm.
Really show it. There's a lot of people that do, but there's a lot of people that sit behind this little keyboard over here, and they just like to run their mouth on that screen. And dude, you're not helping anything at all. You're really not. So, my challenge to everybody is be nice. Be nice and see what it's all about.
I literally had this conversation with somebody today, and it wasn't even, but it wasn't even reptile related. It was a friend of mine that called me, and they were having some issues with literally a friend of theirs that was giving them shit about something, literally, like I said, not even animal related. And it's funny that you say that, Earl, because again, it was not relative to even anything to do with this conversation. It was just this person was just giving them shit about something on a personal level. And I said, and my reaction was, I said, I don't understand why it's so fucking hard for people to just be nice.
Dude,
it's that easy. It's that easy. Like, don't judge people. Here's the thing: if somebody's breeding something you don't agree with, they've already done it. It's already happened. It's over. And it's not your fucking place to control what they do. Okay, because they're gonna figure it out. Now, if you've got somebody that's breeding like a lethal combo or something like that, then sure, educate them. But even with that, there is a way to communicate. Right. If you are not capable of communicating well with people, keep your fucking mouth shut. That's my 2 cents on the entire topic. Because I actually had somebody that I care a lot about. That's a very close friend of mine. That told me recently that they were doing some some social media stuff that they weren't really comfortable with. They were kind of trying to step outside of their comfort zone, right? And literally, they did. And this is not a person that's new to the reptile hobby, but it was a person that's been in it for a long time that just doesn't have a big social media presence. And they had people reach out to them talking shit. I mean, really shitting on them, literally asking them, like, why are you even bothering to do this and blah, blah. Fuck every bit of that. Like, that shit made my fucking blood boil. How dare anybody, first of all, especially if you're literally not doing anything for yourself, if you're not promoting yourself at all, if you're just sitting behind a fucking keyboard and you got, I don't care if you got 300, 400, fucking 3,000 goddamn ball pythons behind you. If you have not tried to do what we're doing right now with Earl, and again, just communicating, if you're not capable of communicating as a human being and putting yourself out there, do not fucking dare to shit on somebody that has the fucking balls to fucking get out there and promote themselves. Because guess what? They're promoting our industry. They are doing you a fucking favor by putting themselves out there and talking about what they have going on. They don't have to do that. They're not required to. None of us are at the end of the day.
One of the first things that I talk to people about when they call me for advice is grow your social media with your animals. Mm-hmm. Start early. I didn't. I mean, well, I'm not going to say I didn't, because I actually did videos from one. But I didn't release none because, I sound like a country bumpkin. I didn't want to hear myself. Every time I listen to these videos, I was like, damn, dude. I mean, you're as country as it gets. I'm not releasing that. And so for 5 years, I've got footage from way back. I deleted it off my old iPads, but I've got a lot of footage from early on that I just wouldn't release.
Yeah,
And,
no, same.
and
I
I
do
made
too.
a mistake doing that. I should have been releasing that. Uh,
Yes.
even when I worked on Walker, Texas Ranger, I mean, it was different then because everybody's country. When
Yeah.
we watch the show, everybody has an accent.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, it's hard because I know I've got a heavy accent. And it doesn't sound near as bad when I'm talking, but when I listen to it playback, oh my God, it's bad, dude.
Yeah. So,
And it's
so in
like,
other words, you feel like you've got something that people can target you for.
well, no, I don't care about that. No, I just didn't want to hear myself.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I
and
It's
follow.
funny
I follow.
because I kind of went through the same thing. Like, I've been around reptiles and I've kept reptiles since I was a little kid. And Katie and I have been keeping reptiles together and breeding reptiles for fucking 17 years. And I never did social media before. I never did anything like that. And, it's basically Brian Cusco that kind of got me to where I felt comfortable to do it. But I would make a video or something and I would hear myself talk. And I was like, I'm from Arkansas and I have this draw to my voice and I have this thing. And then, I did Searchable as Reptiles. I got told my voice was like chocolate, whatever the fuck that means. So I'm just going to start talking all the time.
I started to call you out on that the other day, and I forgot all about it. I literally had it planned in my head to bring that up, and I forgot about it.
Well, one of my things, was the fact that, I just didn't like the way I sounded, right? And
Yeah.
so and plus I'm computer illiterate. I ain't gonna lie, dude. I'm old school. This computer crap, dude. I was lucky to learn how to text on a phone. It wasn't until like a year ago that I started doing hashtags.
Yeah.
I was told, hey, your pictures are not getting any views because you're not putting hashtags with them. And I was like, what the hell's a hashtag?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I didn't know.
I didn't know either, literally until a year ago. So we're on the same page, and I'm younger than you are. So
yeah, the very first one I put like 8 or 10 hashtags on it. It got like 3,000 views in an hour.
Yeah.
And my most views was like 100 in a week before that. And it's like, oh wow. And so, I'm learning, and
yeah,
my website, my web designer, this is a brand new Mac we're on right now. And I would never spend the money on a Mac. I'm like, I'm out. Ain't happening. I can buy a computer for $100.
Yeah.
Like, my web designer says you need a Mac. So I went out and spent $2,500 on a Mac. I couldn't even turn it on. The button was on the spot. I didn't know how to turn it on.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yep.
So I had to call her to come over here and help me. Well, then she gets everything set up on my website, right? She shows me how to load the pictures, do all the stuff. And the very first sale last year, first sale off of this Mac, I went to delete that picture after I sold the animal and deleted the whole page. Yeah. I called her up. I said, hey, we got a problem. I deleted. Hey, there was 200 and something animals on my page, on that available page. It's gone. All right, now I got to go out there and do all the pictures again because I done deleted all the pictures off my phone, or my iPad. And she goes, it's not gone. I'll get it back. And she goes, but that's not how you do it. This is how you do it. And so it's been a learning curve for me, all the new camera equipment, the microphones. You know how many microphones I've been through to do videos? Yeah. I spent $4,000 on microphones in 2 years, and I finally found something I like.
Yeah.
It doesn't fade in and out,
Yeah. Well, and I think Earl, the point is that you're putting in the time, the effort, and the money to present yourself well. And again, this is the general consensus of this entire conversation is just represent us well, represent this hobby well. All of us need to hold ourselves to just a high standard. I mean, that should go without saying, right? But the social media things is again, that's a kind of a different angle, right? Because again, I don't mind if somebody's putting out low quality content, or at least like visually and audibly, but also just understand your stuff may not catch traction, and you may have to understand you might have a guy like that guy that I met in the pet store watch your stuff and be like, oh, well, this is a really poor representation of these people in this hobby. So even that is also a factor. Maybe that's just my brain, but I just always have felt like you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability, and try to represent yourself well in the hobby well.
You got to understand something else, and both of y'all know this, but a lot of people don't. I don't do shows. I don't do shows. I don't do morph market. I don't do any platform that most everybody else uses. I use my social media, and I don't advertise animals on social media. You will never see me post stuff up there.
Nope.
My YouTube, you can see everything we're making, and my website is my only means of selling animals. I do advertise on Google. It's a little more money, but and I'm not trying to put anybody down, especially morph market or anything like that.
No, not at all.
Morph market to me has become nothing but a flea market, and I did use morph market early on, and it was a good platform. However, all I ever got off of morph market is, will you take less for this? Will you take less for this? If I wanted less, I'd have put less on it. If you're buying multiple animals, I'm going to offer you a discount. All right.
Yeah.
But when the first question out of your mouth is, would you take less for it? I'm already done talking to you, man. I'm over it.
100%. Yep.
I mean, I haven't worked for the last 15 years to make this animal for you to come at me at, $500 less.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say the flip side of that too, to make a point out of what you're talking about, because I've talked about it previously, and I've actually debated on making a video on this. There's a way to be a good customer. If so, in other words, what my point is that if you are if you're early on in this hobby, or if you're not, it doesn't matter where you're at in this hobby. If you are a pain in the ass customer, if you want a nickel and dime on the price, or if, let's say, I've got a snake that will only eat live, and you want to set the expectation like right up front, I'm not buying this fucking animal unless it's going to eat frozen. Okay, well, well then maybe let's have a conversation around it, right? But like, you can't make demands, and if you do, I don't want to deal with you.
Hey, I will find out what area you're in, and I'll send you to somebody in your area that deals with frozen thawed, because I will not put animals on frozen thawed. I won't.
Right, and that's my point. But I guess what I'm getting at is, just as a customer, I mean, just try to be reasonable, and also again understand that if this person's producing animals that you want to buy, every purchase for me, anybody that I buy from, I want to build a relationship with that person, because they're already producing animals that I want. So God knows next year they're going to be a year or two or three ahead of where I'm at. So I'm going to want to buy from them again and again and again, because they have the stuff that I like, and on top of that, I'm also being a good person and then building that other person's business up. So I'm spending money with people that I like. I'm spending money with people that I want to stay around, and things like that. So there's a way that you should be buying your animals and not being an asshole, and not being a fucking Karen.
To quote you, Zach, vote with your dollar.
Vote with your dollar, absolutely, man. And that's not just my quote. I do say it all the time. I've said that since I was 15 years old about every fucking thing that I've ever bought. And I'm big in the car community too, and it's the same thing. If there's somebody that's an asshole, I don't care what they're selling that I need for my vehicle or whatever. If you're a dickhead, I'm not gonna spend money with you, and vice versa.
I got a car for sale. You want it?
I might. I don't have the money for it, but I believe you. I know you're into cars, so I appreciate that. Yeah,
I've got an 06 Mustang that's pretty hot. Got ostrich skin upholstery in it.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say, if you're talking about your Mustang, I've already seen the pictures of it. I love that upholstery. It's good stuff. Beautiful.
It's for sale.
Well, it's only for sale because you're trying to get something better.
No. I just need it out of my driveway now.
I hear you.
No, we don't drive it, and I mean, it's a awesome ride, but
it is. It's beautiful. Like I said, I've seen the pictures of it. It's a nice car.
I'm getting old, and it's harder to get in and out of it. And having a hot rod all the time, it's not all it's made out to be. I mean, she's got a 4-wheel drive now, and it's just hard to get in and out of. She has to pay to get out of it.
Yeah,
but, I mean, it's hilarious, but no, I think the moral to what I was getting at is, guys, just try to stop bullying people. I mean, we want people coming into this industry. We don't want to run them off. And there's some real I'm gonna try to be politically correct here. Is there some bad people in this industry? Yes. You know, is there some people that don't really need to be in this industry? Probably. But at the same time, if we educate them, maybe they'll get better. You know, this particular individual has been in it for several years, and he's just doing his own thing. And
Yeah.
he's being bullied because of what he's doing. Well, bullying is not just in schools, it's everywhere. And, you know, that's the simplest way to put this. But this guy didn't deserve the treatment that he got. And it went on for, you know, several messages. And then somebody else got involved in it and made it even worse. Guys, if you don't want that same stuff coming back to you, treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
if I'm making something, you know, some kind of stupid pairing, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
You know, and I have done some really weird pairings,
Yeah.
you know, over the years, but there was a reason for it. I don't breed for right now. I'm breeding for 5 years down the road.
Yep.
You know, and if you're not breeding for 5 years down the road, you're not going anywhere. You know,
Yeah.
look at what you're doing now and what you can do with that animal 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And that's how you set your pairings. And so when somebody does this, they post these pictures because they're proud of what they're doing. Don't bash them for it. Just be nice. If you don't like what they're doing, don't even comment.
And there's if you are coming from the right place, because I've had these conversations, right? I have, and I'm, first of all, I'm nobody. I don't know every damn thing about things, and so maybe that's what makes it easy for me to do this. But my way of approaching stuff like that is when people tell me what they want to do with their pairings, I ask them, well, okay, well, yeah, so like, what's your plan with that? You know, what are you shooting for? What do you want out of that clutch? And the reason I ask those questions is so that if I don't understand where you're going with that clutch, and I think that it's a pairing that doesn't make sense, well, first of all, it's not my place to assume that. So let me ask, because you might have a plan for that. So let me ask. And so, okay, and there's been times where I've asked a couple people, and again, I'm not some fucking body that is up real fucking high on some fucking hill, but I've had these conversations, and it's been nice to kind of almost walk somebody through that thought process, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna get a lot more done by leading people to their own conclusion than you are by messaging somebody with your conclusion and saying, hey, that's a stupid fucking pairing. You shouldn't waste your time on that, because all you're going to end up with is a bunch of possets. Well, you don't know their business model. You don't know that maybe they've got a local pet store they're going to sell all their posset males to, and they're going to hold back all the posset females. You don't have the information to go on. Don't ever assume that by somebody else's post on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or wherever the fuck, don't ever assume that you have all the information. Okay? Just don't be a dickhead. Is the long and short of it. Be
Well, the
fucking
long
nice.
and short of it to me is just like it is with everything else in life. Mind your fucking business.
Yeah, and
You
be
know?
nice. Be fucking nice. You can be helpful.
Be nice, man. And
be nice.
Dude, you'd be surprised at how much farther you can get in life by being nice. It took me a lot of years to learn that, dude, because, you know, I've had my share of troubles over the years.
And,
me too. You know, I mean,
all of us here have. All three of us.
I got 50 years of experience of screwing up, dude. I promise you. And, you know, I mean,
that's what makes us who we are, though.
I regret nothing.
No, I don't have any regrets. I mean, if I hadn't made the mistakes I've made, I wouldn't be where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah. I wouldn't change you for the world, Earl, and that just doubles down on what you're saying, man. I hope that means something to you from the outside looking in.
And I do want to put an apology out there for not doing any videos, guys. Y'all, nobody knows what I've been going through here lately, but you know, these guys do. I just had surgery 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you know, I was feeling really bad at the show. You know, some of you knew that, some of you didn't. But as soon as the show was over, I went to the doctor. I got checked out, and I went in for emergency surgery. And I had a triple hernia, and didn't even know it. I mean, I knew I had a hernia, but we didn't realize it was triple hernia. So it was a pretty expensive surgery. And, you know, I've been down and just hadn't had the chance to get out there, and couldn't even move for almost a week. So we're going to get back on the videos. We're going to be doing one tomorrow, and we're hopefully releasing it on Monday. But we're going to get back on track. It's just, you know, life happens sometimes. And, And
Most definitely.
and you know, and I'll tell you, you know, as much as I hated doing the videos early on, I like doing the videos. It's fun, you know, especially when we can have some decent content, you know.
Man, yeah, you just had my words coming out of your mouth, because I tell people all the time, you know, go back and watch my first video that I made. First of all, the quality was terrible. Not that the quality on any of the other ones is better, but or is amazing. It's definitely better than the first one. But it's the greatest decision I ever made in my life, and I was inspired by guys like yourself and just other people that, again, just, you know, put themselves out there and just leaned into what they were interested in, and again, try to represent themselves well.
Yeah, if
You
it
know,
wasn't for the videos, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I can tell you that.
I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I promise you.
That's out there.
I probably wouldn't. I might know Bradley, but we damn sure wouldn't be sitting here having a conversation with you if it wasn't for that. So, no, I agree, and I can't say how much I appreciate the fact that this entire stream for the last hour and 15 minutes has literally, there's been one common theme, which is just, for fuck's sake, guys, we all love the same shit. Just love each other and be fucking nice. And I love that even more, because that is like basically Bradley and I's like bread and butter. It's like what we exist for.
Yeah.
Is these animals, and just trying to represent them well and be positive. And that's why I loved that we were able to get you to come on, and because you personify that, Earl. I mean, in everything that you do, man. Like, it was a privilege, in all seriousness, walking around Arlington and have you kind of, walk along with me for a little while, and just, again, you didn't. And to clarify, I was out of my element. I had no intention when I took that snake from their table, or was handed that snake from their table. I had no intention of educating anybody about it. I was just like, okay, cool. Like, this is a beautiful snake to get to hang out with. And it turned into an educational opportunity, which was the first time I'd ever done that. I had never educated anybody on snakes. I had never hung around kids and like let them hold a snake or any of that stuff. And I told Bradley this. He's got it on video on his channel. Like, it was the greatest experience of my entire life, and it was life changing. I wanted to cry about every 30 seconds that, at every chance, every time a kid stopped me or a parent stopped me or just anyone wanting to hold that snake. But I loved that you were so observant to pick up on what I was doing, and you literally, without us even talking about it, were kind of helping me through, showing me how to make people feel comfortable with that animal. And you built an opportunity for me to experience that. So, like, there's layers to the shit that you do for this community. Like, again, you could have easily said, hey, Zach, why don't you let me hold that snake? And you could have walked around the show and showed people that same snake with the same level of trust and educated people yourself. But there's something in you, Earl, as a person, that you stood back and watched me kind of fumble my way through, kind of like showing people this animal and giving people a photo opportunity and all that. And you stepped in and said, hey, and not even said, hey, you just said, you started just doing things. And I guess picked up on it, and I'm observant enough to recognize that you were trying to teach me something in those moments. And man, that I'm telling you, Earl, I will never forget that day for as long as I live. I spent, Bradley, what? I mean, I almost missed doing Connected by Creatures while we were at the show, because I was running around for so long educating people. Like, once I had the ammo that Earl gave me on how to teach, because after Earl left me alone, I was kissing that snake on the mouth for little kids, just kissing on the face for little kids, because I recognize how easily that disarms people.
Yep.
But it's just,
and also, man, like what Zach's talking about right now. Earlier, you said that when you're on set, you're the guy that they see with the cowboy hat, and they see you and they perceive you in this certain way. And I think that on the outside, when people don't know you and people haven't talked to you, that it's easy to get that perception. But the second that somebody sparks up a conversation with you, and that's why in the description of this video, I said what I said, that, the second somebody takes the time to have a conversation with, it's instant smiles and it's an instant story. And I didn't mean that as you, it's a story for that person, because, you have that energy and that vibe in this community that you can, teach everybody something. Whether they know more than, you might know technically, you can still teach everybody something. And that's one of the biggest reasons that Zach and I wanted to have you on here, is because you are that presence that, you just kind of step it up to another level that we can only hope to achieve.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that.
I think the point is Earl, we said it already, man. You just naturally communicate well, and I think that it's twofold, right? You communicate so well with the animals, and so you're this kind of bridge between personalities, because you can connect with this animal so quickly and easily and recognize this animal, and then you can say, okay, cool, I know how to translate what this animal is trying to teach this person, and vice versa.
Well,
and I've watched it in person, and it's amazing.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you that day at Arlington. When you were having a hard time with them kids, I just grabbed that snake and I looked at it, and I'm thinking, this is going to go one or two ways, but I watched you with the snake. I knew the snake wouldn't do anything, so I just done it. And if that taught you something, dude, I mean, I'm happy to help if that's all it took, to learn to educate.
It was one of the greatest moments of my life, Earl. I'm not kidding. I'm struggling not to break down right now, because I'm being serious. Like I said, I had Bradley and I have talked about how Bradley does a lot of educational stuff with kids with snakes, and I've told him before that it's something I would love to do, because that's how I got introduced to them. And that the market that I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, there's nobody really that's doing much with that. There's a local pet shop that they kind of do some of that stuff for money, but I'm not even gonna throw that example out, because it's a negative example of them. I think that they try their best, but I don't think that they are actually as educated as they represent themselves to be. I love the market that I'm in, because I call it a market. I love the city I'm in, because I do feel like there's a lot of opportunity for somebody to start educating, and I would love to do that. But again, I didn't really know how to approach it. I'm uncomfortable with it. But no, in all seriousness, Earl, spending 15, 20 minutes with you walking around, and you just observing you, and you tell me a couple little things of just how to disarm people, is like, I mean, it was night and day, because I was already having so much fun. I think I told you that at the show, like, man, this is the best thing I've done all weekend.
But you were nervous at the same time. And I sensed that too.
Yeah, and exactly, and that,
and I told you that.
And the kids will pick up on the nerves.
Yeah, and
because I was worried, because even though I knew
that you were nervous, and this was a way to settle you down with the kids. I mean, because the simple fact is you're talking to somebody else's children,
right?
And if you do here's the biggest thing you can ever take from education is, don't ever tell a story that's not true to them kids. Because I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to call you out on it first.
And it goes in the vault. Because they're going to remember, and they'll remember forever.
Exactly. And just be yourself, man.
Yeah.
But use that animal to talk for you.
Yeah.
And like we do educational I do programs here at the facility. Because of COVID, I quit going into people's houses, because I don't know what's going on at their houses. So, like, I think I have 3 school events, and I don't even know why they're still having, in June, because schools are closed here already. But, I've got 3 school events next month, and they come out here, 15, 20 kids at a time, and, it's a great experience. I think I'm doing, I don't know, in the next couple months, I got like 5 or 6 birthday parties. I don't do a lot anymore. It's a lot less than what we did before COVID, of course. But I did a birthday party. That's been a few months ago, and I took my stepson with me for the first time. And dude, there had to have been 100 people at this party. And I mean, it was huge. And I asked the lady, I said, "Do you have plenty of room?"
That's a lot to deal with.
Oh yeah. I said, "Do you have plenty of room for a 20-foot snake?" And I said, "Oh yeah, we got plenty of room." So it's 4.5 hours to this place, right? And so we get out there, and when I got off the highway, I'm going through like the ghetto. I mean, literally. And I'm thinking, there is not going to be room in these houses for this snake. Hey,
Yeah.
and we go 5 blocks and it's like mansions.
It just opens up. Yeah. That's how it goes sometimes.
We get in there and their living room is like 40 by 60. And I'm like, this is awesome, you know. And my stepson had never actually seen the size of this snake in person because we don't keep it on this location. I actually sold my biggest snakes, but I still have access to, to use them.
Yeah, for events, right.
So when I went to pull this snake out, I mean, this snake is literally that big around, dude. It's 275 pounds.
Yeah.
And my stepson was like, "Oh my goodness." But it's something like that when you pull out that wow factor at the end of the show. I mean, it's like incredible. I mean, you can have all the ball pythons and blue tongue skinks and all that stuff in the world, but when you pull out that massive snake, I've had a Major League Baseball team holding that snake up, dude. On their field. They came to an event that I was at and said, "Hey, we want that snake at our ballpark." I was like,
"Yeah,
okay,
done.
We can do that." So I try not to refuse any parties, but I have, for distance or something like that.
Sure, there's always factors.
I work for a living still. I mean, I work full time. I work part time in the film industry, and then I do this full time. So, I sleep 3 to 4 hours a day. That's it.
Yeah.
And like today, I got off work this morning. I had to go get rats, come home, drop them off, go to a doctor's appointment, come home. I slept for 2 hours and got up, did what I had to do, and now I'm doing this. And I'll be up all night. You're going to clean the cages tonight. I mean, it just never stops. But, dedication, dedication is a lot of, what it takes to be a good educator too. I mean, you have to be educated and know what you're talking about. If you feel uncomfortable at all with anything about it, research it. Study it. And then when you walk out there, dude, here's a prime example. So when when I first hooked up with Venom Life, and he came to me to be an apparel sponsor for filming, and it had nothing to do with the reptiles. This is all filming stuff.
Yeah.
And I already had a sponsor for hooks and tongs and stuff, so I couldn't use his products. And so he wanted to be an apparel sponsor. And so we did that. Well, so the Asclepias Snakebite Foundation is a very big part of Venom Life. And I'm, a big part of the Asclepias Snakebite Foundation now myself. But Brent, I was asked to speak at the Rotary Club, a local Rotary Club. There's 90 members, in this Rotary Club, and Brent was going to be at Venom Fest in, was it Houston or San Antonio? I don't know which. He was here, and so he sends me all the, stuff, to give his information, and he was going to come and help me with this presentation. His dad had a heart attack while he was there. Now he's going to drive up here, do this presentation with me, and then drive back down there. The night before this presentation, I'm working that night, and I have to get off work, come home, change clothes, and go do this presentation.
Yeah.
And I had to pull everything off the internet because he just went silent after he found out his dad had a heart attack. He was hightailing home.
Yeah.
And I pulled everything off the internet, pictures, whatever I could find, and I read and read and read. And I walked in there, and dude, I cannot speak into a microphone. I'm telling you right now, you put a microphone on the counter, and I'm like,
you fell on the spot. Yeah. I'm the same way. Yeah.
So I walk in there, and the lady says, "Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put you up here on the podium." Well, now I'm in front of 90 people. That doesn't seem like much because I can talk to anybody. But as soon as you put me in front of a crowd, again, I freeze up.
Earl, we are on the same page. Yeah.
So I get up there, and I see this older gentleman. He's in the back. He's about 70 years old. And he's back there doing this. And he said, "I can't hear you back here," just yelling at me.
Yeah.
And so the girl comes up there and hooks up the microphone. And this is no joke now. I started out, and this one guy, he says, "Is there anything you're afraid of?" And I said, "Yeah, my wife and speaking to you right now." And the whole crowd just died laughing. And once I started laughing, then it was fine. I just blew right through it. We videoed that presentation. And when I sent that video to Brent, he goes, dude, I couldn't have done that any better myself. He said, I'm proud of it. But I researched it the night before, man. That's all I had to go by. I didn't know. I knew about the Asclepius Snakebite Foundation. This was very early on. I mean, Brent had taken me in, he sponsored me like 3 months earlier. So I didn't have enough research on what they were really doing. And I blew right through this. When I got done, that old man in the back that was harassing me the whole time, he come up there and he goes, I just want to tell you, you're the best guest speaker we've ever had. He said, I would love to see you come back another day and bring animals next time. And that made me feel good because I knew he was a jerk already, but I put information out there that was good information and they wanted to hear. And I think it's the same thing educating these kids. Make sure you put the right information out there, first and foremost, and do it in a way they can understand it. This particular presentation, I had lots of pictures to go by, so they were able to see exactly what I was talking about. It was awesome.
I think that's very important. Like we did our first birthday party since COVID. What was it, 2-3 weeks ago? And I was telling you, I had a group. It was a 16-year-old girl's birthday party, and I had a group of 16 to 18-year-olds. And I was nervous about that because that was the first time that I've done a lot of kids, but that was the first time I had done, 16 to 18-year-old.
Yeah. They're going to have questions and legit questions, and they're going to, right.
I reached out to a few people, to try to get some pointers and everything. And I think the best part about it was everything that I was presenting to them is animals that I can tell you everything about. It's shit that I know forwards and backwards. And if there's not a question that they could come up with that I couldn't give them a rational, reasonable answer.
Yeah.
And I think, just by having that confidence and knowing the animals that you're presenting and knowing the information that you're presenting, that crosses it gives you a whole extra level of being able to break through the boundaries that people put up, about reptiles or whatever it may be that you're educating them on.
Yeah, because it builds that confidence for them, because there might have been a kid there that was, again, that his future might have been him being that guy in that pet store. It's like, I'll kill that snake and you get too close with me.
That kid was definitely there.
Yeah, that kid was definitely there.
Brian Gundy is, right?
He's actually our guest next week. Mr.
I was going to say it's convenient that you bring up Brian Gundy, because we will be actually talking to him next week.
Brian was my original mentor, and so Brian did the Google's Christmas party one year. Now think about that.
Yeah, when the first time I met Mr. Brian Gundy, we had that conversation and talked to, and he looked at me, he was like, Bradley, I did Google's Christmas party, and I was like, holy shit, wow.
Yeah, he's got pictures from it.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that, dude. That thing was huge. I forget how many people he said was there. It's like 700 people or something. Yeah. And it's like, I did a school that had. It was, I think, 9 kindergarten classes at one time. And because they didn't want to pay for separate, parties. So we did all 9, classes at one time. And oh my goodness, man. There's 30 kids per class and 9 of them. And they're all just terrorizing you, It was crazy.
The best bit of advice that I was ever given as far as doing, education with kids and parties and shows and stuff like that is make sure that you run your show. It's your show. Don't let the kids or the audience overrun you. Make sure that you're doing your presentation. Yeah. And that's the best advice I was ever given as far as that.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Mr. Earl, we've had you on here for about an hour and a half, And before we started the podcast, we talked about the segments that we do.
Right.
And I think this week we're only going to do the music segment. And you told us that we were going to be shocked and we wouldn't expect it to be who you were listening to. So real quick, who's your band or musician of the week?
Well, so I don't really have a band or musician for the week, but I'll tell you this: when I get in the snake room, it kind of depends on what kind of mood I'm in.
Sure.
But everybody expects me to be country to the bone, and I am for the most part. But don't be surprised if you walk into the room and Marilyn Manson's playing, or Black Sabbath, or dude, it might be gospel music playing. You never know what's going to be. It depends on the mood I'm in. I've had Beethoven playing in there, dude. If I'm real tired and I need to keep going, hey, dude, we're throwing Uncle Cracker in there. We're going to, the only thing I won't listen to is rap. I just won't listen to it. But, I'll throw some Uncle Cracker in there, some AC/DC. You never know what's going to be playing in there. And I mean, it surprises people when you walk in the door and, I don't like the drugs, but the drugs like me is playing, I mean,
story of my life.
It happens,
Yeah. There you go, brother.
And I mean, I got to meet Marilyn Manson years ago backstage, and the dude's a really awesome guy. And I'm not going to say I love all his music, but, I do like a lot of his music. And I like some of the old school rock, Eagles and stuff like that. But my stepson's come out there when I'm playing Beethoven. He's like, "What the hell are you playing?" It's like nobody expects it. There's a lot less country plays out there than people realize. But that's I listen to music is in my snake room. I don't listen to it going down the highway. I want to be able to hear what's going on around me. I'm an old race car driver. I never had stereos in my hot rods. And I like to know what's going on around me. And, if I get stereo blaring, I can't hear it. So, but yeah, you never know what you're going to hear around me. It is what it is.
I didn't expect that, but I'm glad that that's what we got. Everything from Marilyn Manson to Beethoven.
Yeah.
Zach, can you top that this week with your band of the week?
So my band of the week, you and I have talked about them a lot, or previously, maybe in private conversation, but never on here. Ghost. I'm gonna go Ghost, man. So I actually was not familiar with Ghost until I went to see Iron Maiden live. And let's be clear, Ghost, for the record, like they headline their own shows. I mean, they're not a small band, and how I never managed to hear them prior to that is amazing to me. Considering my musical taste, but yeah, Ghost. If you've never heard Ghost, they are modern day like rock opera. Like just they're phenomenal. The way that like lyrically speaking, performance wise, you're talking about full on show, like masks and costumes and an actual performance. Things like that often don't exist anymore. A lot of these guys just go on band or go on stage as just, hey, we're the band and we play the music that you love. And so we're just dressed in street clothes or whatever. So I appreciate the hell out of any band. It's like Guar. You go see a Guar show. You go see a Rob Zombie show.
Rob Zombie's it, dude. I'm telling you.
There's a performance involved.
Well, here's what most people don't realize about me. So I may be country to the bone, but I was not born in Texas.
Right.
I grew up in California. I grew up with like Rob Zombie and Saliva and all that, and Guns N' Roses. I mean, I used to work in a boat shop out there. Matt Hatter was one of Axl Rose's drummers, and he used to come in there with hot rod parts for his car. Yeah. I got to meet Axl Rose, in the shop one day, but. So I didn't grow up around country. Now I knew who Willie Nelson was, and then I know Willie Nelson real well. We do his fireworks show every year, and and I listen to some of that old school country, but there's a tear in my beer crap I can't deal with, man. You know.
Yeah, the cliche. Modern day country sucks. Like that's my opinion. You know, you guys be mad at me if you want, but modern day country is just garbage.
You know, there's
no
some
soul to it. There's no heart
there's
to it.
some of it that's okay, but that
Yeah.
know, there's some of that old stuff that I can't deal with either. You know, and but yeah, it's funny because a lot of people they I mean, when people ask me, you know, did you grow up in Texas? Well, no, I was born in Lodi, California. You know, at 11 years old, I moved to Texas, and they're like, no way, dude.
Yeah,
you know,
you're Texas all the way. Yeah.
But, you know, and it's funny because, you know, me and Ton are really, really close, Ton Jones. And most people, you know, think we're brothers because we look a lot alike.
Yeah.
He's not my brother. However, we are brothers. My mother calls him her son.
Mm-hmm.
He was born in Abilene, Texas, and moved to California. I was born in California and moved to Abilene, Texas. And so we crossed paths, you know, at a young age. You know, of course, he's a little younger than me, but, you know, I'm like dad to him. Matter of fact, when he bought his house here, the guy that was selling the house, he looked at me and my wife and he goes, "Is he your son?" And I was like, "Are you serious? That did not come out of her." Yeah.
But at the same, but, and again, that's another thing, man. I'm just telling you, Earl, you got good fucking energy, man. You got good fucking energy.
Great energy.
If anybody ever asked me, hey, describe Earl in one fucking sentence, Earl's got good fucking energy. You're good for the fucking hobby, to add a second sentence, which is the most important thing, I think. You're an amazing representative. I mean, I literally, the hobby needs more Earl Joneses. And I just, again, I would encourage anybody, I think, watching this, and Earl, I know that you will appreciate this and that you will lean into this. If there is somebody that's watching this, you're early in the hobby, you're new. Earl is the guy to maybe reach out to, but if nothing else, to set the standard by. He's good people, and the hobby needs more advocates. You know, at the end of the day, you know, the hobby needs more people that are willing to fight the good fight and to represent themselves as beyond reproach. You know, nobody can walk into your snake room on any given day and question you about anything because your shit's done right. And on top of that, you do all this educational stuff and everything. I mean, just.
That's something else that a lot of people don't realize. We invite people in here on a daily basis.
I know you do. I know you do. It's somebody said in the comments earlier. Yep.
Yeah, we're open to the public. We don't have anything to hide.
Yeah.
You know?
No, not at all.
That started early on because, you know, when I first, I saw a pied and I had to have one. But I didn't want to just go buy ball pythons because I didn't know anything about them. I worked with venomous. I didn't know nothing about ball pythons. So I traveled all over the country early on, and I called over 300 people, and 30 of them let me in. I was told no, you know, a lot more than I was told yes. And so when we got done traveling, we did this for a year. When we got done traveling, I came home, and me and her discussed it, and I told her I will never tell somebody no. And therefore, we've never had animals in the house, you know, as far as what we're selling and people are going to be looking at.
Yeah.
If, you know, like we do the get-togethers, you know, before every show, and not everybody gets invited because I don't have room for everybody to show up, but, you know, and we try to make it, you know, to where we can get a lot of different people out here. If you call me ahead of time and, you know, whatever, but y'all get to come inside my house. The people off the street, they're not coming to my house, dude. And so early on, I just thought everybody was trying to hide stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe they were. I don't know. But I know a lot of the people that told me no early on now invite me to their places. You know, but there again, they were in their infant stage as well.
Right.
And what I mean by that is they were doing it in their house. Now they have big buildings, you know. So I don't want people in my house either coming in off the street. I don't know who these people are. So we built buildings, and Brian Gundy was one of the ones that set the standard for me on that, you know, because he was the first person, you know, to actually invite us in, you know, and he was one of the first people I actually met that I mean, he taught me a lot.
Well, it was mentioned in the comments earlier that you have your phone number on all your videos, and that's another thing that Mr. Brian Gundy has always done. You know, he's always had his phone number to where people can reach out, and that means so much. You know, like that's
I work
huge.
nights. This phone, when I get up, dude, there's no less than 50 phone calls on there that I have to call back every single day. The emails, the text, I mean, it's ridiculous. But you know what? I make sure I call every single one of them, no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the stupidest question in the world, you know, and I'm going to answer it. And if, you know, it doesn't matter. I call everybody.
Yeah.
You know,
that's dedication.
Hey, you know, I got lucky today and I only had like 9 calls. And every one of them were for bearded dragons, frogs, and chameleons. You know, well, I don't deal with any of that, but I know where to send them.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
that's another thing is, you know, if somebody calls you, don't hesitate to send them somewhere else. You know, help them to get what they want, but know where to send them. You know? I mean, we have several people that we know are good with certain animals, and so when somebody calls me, I just automatically give them that number. Well, here, call this guy. He can help you.
That's how it should be, always.
And then, you know, you're not some douchebag, you know, just blowing them off.
Right.
You know?
Because again, going back to what, again, just to bring it full circle, that might be that person's first interaction with anyone in the reptile hobby. And God knows you don't want to be the person that turns them off to these animals. And if you haven't thought of that angle, please do. And if you have thought of that angle and you're still blowing people off, well, don't be such a fucking asshole. Be fucking nice.
I'm not
it's that fucking simple.
I'm not going to mention any names, but one of the first people I called, dude, he talked to me like I was just a piece of dirt, and I would never buy anything from that guy. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even want to meet this guy in person. I mean, it was that bad. And when this guy has imploded in this industry, you know, I mean, he's you know, nobody now because he imploded on himself.
Yep.
But, and I don't throw names out there like that, but
you let the business run its course.
Yeah, and it did. I guarantee
exactly.
He imploded. I mean, and you know, last I heard, you know, he was out of it. But he got what was coming to him. But and if he treats all his, you know, customers that way, you know, I mean, all I'm asking for is a little advice, and I mean, he just blew up on me. It's like, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
But that made me who I am. You know, is seeing that kind of interaction. You know, Zach, if you called me today and I cussed you because, you know, I didn't want to talk to you, you'd never call me again, dude.
I probably would, because I'd probably laugh my ass off at you. But I understand where you're getting at.
Yeah, but
if I called you and you talked to me like I was a fucking retard, or if I called you and you talked to me like I was stupid, I probably wouldn't either. Yeah, you're absolutely right. To make your point, I'm sorry to make a joke out of something, but
I mean, there's a lot of, I'm not going to say stupid.
Ignorant. It's literally a lack of information, lack of knowledge.
It's ignorance in what we're doing. And you have to educate those people, you know. Like today, I had one, she wants to come out here and buy a ball python, and I had to explain to her, I have nothing for sale. I haven't had anything for 3 months. All right. But I will have eggs coming out next month.
Yeah.
So if you go subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can see exactly what we're making, when we make it. If you see something you like, call us. You have my number, you know, save my number, you know, and it works. You know,
but 100%.
You cannot be mean. You can't bully people. You can't talk trash to them.
No.
You know, always be nice. That's, if you take nothing from this podcast at all, be nice. Period.
I think that's
perfect.
Yeah,
I love it, and Bradley, I think you and I can both agree based on your facial expression and my reaction. That's where we end it. Just be fucking nice.
Yeah, Mr. Earl, I just want to say thank you again for coming on here. I know that you had surgery, and you know you're recovering from that, and I'm glad that you're doing better. I'm glad that you're feeling better. We had a good conversation on the phone yesterday. Like Zach said earlier, you have great energy and you're great for this hobby, this industry, all of it. Thank you. You know, that's all I can say.
Yeah. If anybody can model themselves after everybody in this industry, I would say to model themselves after Earl, as much as humanly possible. And again, if you're not capable of being nice, don't go out of your way to represent this hobby. I'm not telling you that if you're a fucking asshole and you got a bad attitude and you're fully aware of it, that's okay. You can still keep these animals. I don't want to keep anybody from the hobby. You can be an asshole and still keep snakes. Just please don't go out of your way to represent the hobby for all of us, for all of our sakes. Just keep your snakes and be fucking quiet about it, and again, if somebody says something or posts something or whatever that you disagree with, let's not make it a thing. Just be fucking nice and recognize that anything you post on the internet is public. If you go and shame somebody, it's public. If you go out of your way to bash somebody that is doing their best, you are hurting this hobby. You're not. You might think you're building this up, but you're not. You are absolutely not. Any kind of negativity, I'm sorry, you are hurting this hobby. Again, try to understand that even things that may seem obvious to you, that are wrong, you have to approach them in the proper way in order to get people to listen. It's all about communication, and I would encourage anybody. I hope, in all seriousness, if there's somebody that you see that is doing something wrong and you don't know how to talk to them, I'm not perfect by any means, but reach out to me and ask me, hey, how can I maybe communicate with this person and educate them without coming across as a dickhead? I'm usually pretty good at kind of trying to navigate awkward conversations in that way, or whatever. I don't know. I'm just trying to do my best to just help and just build off of what Earl has set as the example for me and I hope for all of us, because genuinely it's all about just, again, being kind and accepting and welcoming. So,
Hey, and I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but let's always remember, USR guys.
Hey man, nothing about a dead horse there.
Everybody, please do what you got to do. Become a member of USARC. If you're keeping animals, if you're breeding animals, if you have a friend or a son or a brother that loves these fucking animals that we're keeping, support USARC. Thank you so much for everybody that's been in the comments. The comment section has blown up all night. Man, hit subscribe. We're going to continue doing this. We're going to continue having great people like Mr. Earl. Next Friday, we've got Mr. Brian Gundy. Cannot wait for that. We love all you guys that feel like you are connected by creatures.
And I apologize in the comment section because I can't see it. So if anything was towards me, I didn't see it. I apologize.
You're good, Earl. We got you covered on that end. If there were some questions for you, we asked them. So you don't have anything to apologize for, brother. You just keep doing what you're doing for the reptile hobby and just represent us all well, and we all thank you. So that's it, man.
Love you guys
so much. Love you, man. Love all y'all. Thanks for being here. We'll see y'all next week.
Later.